Hey, how's it going, guys? Chris here. Today we're going to be looking at we don't have the capacity for the migrant levels that are soaring in Australia. So, we were told that immigration is going to get cut down to a more sustainable level, and guess what? We're in 2025, and it's not at a sustainable level. It's sky high again. Let's get into it. Full videos linked
We've had a
below.
special treat here tonight. Of course, you know them both well. Our panel, Lisa Goddard and Christy McSweeney. Thanks so much, guys, for coming in here tonight. And we were just talking about small business and employment and the headaches that all of that is putting on the economy. But there's another thing that I think is also stressing the economy that maybe we don't talk enough about, or some people shy away from, and that is the pressure of immigration. And the new immigration numbers have just been released here. We have a surge back in 2025, apparently, with net overseas migration bouncing back up to around 447,620, if my math is correct.
So nearly 500,000 people. And if you look at it, like look at how many people long term are arriving. Over a million plus people, 1.1 million people. Yeah, there's 600 odd thousand people leaving because they probably come here and they realize, oh shit, this is not what I was expecting Australia to be like. This is expensive. Can't get an apartment. Can't do this. Work doesn't support, like one wage doesn't support a household at all. Two two wages barely support a household. So no wonder people are leaving. But look how many people are arriving. So that just tells you that you know the the amount of people arriving. Like, is that good for the economy? Probably in the short term, it keeps everything afloat, makes it look like we're growing as a country, even though we're you know as a per person basis, we're actually getting poorer because we're so many people are coming in and aren't actually contributing that much to the economy, while the economy is also shrinking. So yeah, it's crap. And think about like the social changes that are going to occur from all these new people that are not getting it, um, you know, integrating into the economy, like into society. We're gonna have like, we're just gonna be this big pot of not Australians fairly soon, if not already.
Now, the government had promised that they would bring these numbers down, but we all know
Another promise that they're not keeping. They're gonna keep the promise about keeping social media under the age of 16, banning that. They'll keep that promise. They'll keep promises about hex debt relief, which is cool. Like, I mean, I've got a little bit of hex debt, but why should everyone else pay for my hex debt to go down? That doesn't make sense. Instead of just, investing in the economy and actually growing it and making it less reliant on government subsidies and stuff. Like, the amount of people that are living off the government is insane.
what these numbers mean, particularly for A, wages, bringing down wages, and also B, the housing crisis here, as well as also other issues like pressures on schools and universities. Um, Christy McSweeney, let me start with you on this here. Don't we need to have a much more frank conversation about who we let into this country and for what purpose? Because you see all the time these stories about so-called skilled migrants coming in for whatever profession, and yet those professions still claim that they're hungry for workers, like in hospitality.
Yeah, look, I think we do need to have a really mature, constructive conversation, which on the one hand is the great benefits of immigration and the great contribution that migrants have made to the fabric of Australian society over decades now. But on the other hand is Australia in the right economic position? And by economic position, I mean with infrastructure in terms of our cities, in particular.
Short answer, hell no. I'll give you an example. Brisbane, for example. I lived there for quite a while. Well, my whole life. I've just recently moved away. Um, and the traffic in Brisbane, like on the gateway, that's the main highway. Well, one of the main highways, mate. That thing gets backed up so badly. Like from like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, it's backed up, and then 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's backed up until 6, 7 p.m. Our infrastructure cannot handle this many people, and it takes forever for one to build new roads or build new hospitals or build anything new because there's too much regulation. And like, obviously regulation's good in some sense, but when you want to pump this many people into society, like, it's just, you need shit to start moving pretty quick.
In housing arrangements, but not only that, in just the livability of our cities. And with that conversation, we have to have that conversation around controlling immigration to geography. Perhaps it's time to talk about decentralisation again. Perhaps it's time to talk about getting people directed out of Melbourne and Sydney, where the housing crisis is really, really extreme and where most migrants want to come to. Perth, of course, as well, has a huge housing crisis too. There is hardly any.
You could name any capital city in Australia and say they have a housing crisis, because they all have a housing crisis. Everywhere you go, every capital city, shit is way too expensive. Even if you're, an hour to 2 hours outside that capital city, it's still really, really expensive. Even rural towns are expensive.
Any rental availability, let alone houses to buy. So it's expanded across the Nullarbor, where Perth was, a few years ago, somewhere where people were migrating to live that great Australian dream. Now it's just as stuck as Melbourne and Sydney. So that mature conversation has to be had. It's really plain that we just don't have the capacity to house more people in this country. We don't.
Well, yeah.
We have to have a discussion about that.
We do. And Lisa, the thing that strikes me too is that we also talk about, this huge housing boom that we're having, but we're not actually talking about what that housing means. And it seems like, from generation to generation, we are seeing this downgrade of expectations where, our parents might have expected to have a house in a yard. A younger generation here now will expect to maybe have a flat that has 1.5 bedrooms or 2 tiny bedrooms or whatever a developer has been allowed to get away with. And we see it in Brisbane and in Perth and in Sydney and in Melbourne and every place. And it feels to me that, whatever the benefits are of bringing in people for the economy, it also is having some real flow-on effects to what we once called proudly the Australian way of life, Lisa.
Yeah, I think the positives of having immigration is well and truly being outweighed by the negatives. Like, there is way more negatives at the moment. We're bringing in way too many people and not building anything near enough. Like, these people that come over here for a better life or whatever, like, they think it's going to be great. And they get over here and they're probably like, fuck, the amount that I have to work to be able to get anywhere in this country it's a pretty ridiculous amount. Like, obviously, maybe for them, it's not. Like, our wages aren't horrible, but you have to bust your ass to get ahead. And maybe it's just Australians are, sick of busting their ass. They just want to, be able to cruise and actually still be able to get ahead. But you can't do that. Like, on 40 hours a week, you're struggling. You're really struggling.
Yeah, and that great Australian dream of a hills hoist and a swing set in the backyard just seems unattainable now to so many people. I know here in Queensland, the government has a special state-facilitated legislation in place where they can actually give developers extra ease to build up further, as long as they include in there a certain percentage of affordable housing. So, and you're talking affordable housing is even a unit which is costing more than $1 million. So when you're a young couple starting out, that's an awful lot of money and a big deposit that you have to then find. And yes,
it's not even just the deposit, right? Like, the deposit, yes, it's a hard part. But then let's say you get the 20% deposit, which is $200,000. That's a lot of money. Then you have an $800,000 mortgage. How is a young person supposed to afford that? And then they've got to pay that for 30 years. That's insane. That's truly insane. When the median wage is, like, I think 90 grand. That's median, but maybe your average person makes 60, 70 grand. How's that going to work? It doesn't work. It doesn't match.
Governments across the country are trying to find subsidies and ways to make it easier for people to get in, but they need the stock, and that's the problem. And as I said before, if you've got builders going to the wall, who's going to build all of these houses? And they're already, what, a year into this program of wanting to deliver 1.2 million homes. And I think the latest figures I saw, they were still 55,000 behind their target a year in. So it just isn't happening. And the conversation that Chrissy's talking about and that you talk about all the time, James, if you start that conversation, you talk about the number of people coming in, you're then deemed to be racist. So that's the problem we have in this society, that dare you talk about it, you're considered to be racist and you're discriminating, not the fact that we don't have the infrastructure to support the number of people that we're bringing in. And if you look at those figures, an awful lot of those are now international students because guess what? The universities have a really strong lobby voice.
It's a crazy time to be alive, and it's funny. Like, it's easy to set targets, but it's actually hard to keep up with those targets. The government's really good at setting targets, but yeah. Let's have a look at these comments. Pushing Aussies that built the country out of housing for immigration population. Yep, pretty much. Even if they're like, maybe you immigrated 10, 20 years ago, you could see how much this country has gone downhill. It's probably not even the same Australia that you've moved to then. Australia's finished, it's downhill. It's too late, it's downhill from here. Hospitals should not be the reason to get into Australia. It's not a skilled. Oh, sorry, hospitality should not be a skill. Yeah, it's not a skilled labor. Like, why? Yeah, we do need more hospitality workers, but that is not skilled labor. Too bad if you are an Aussie taxpayer. Yep. Day by day, Australia will become unrecognizable, exactly like the UK. Yeah, it's crazy what's happening over in Europe. I did a video on Paris. It's just the amount of immigration that they had there is insane, and now it's just crimes out of control. And you walk down the streets and you don't even know, you wouldn't see anyone that's actually been born in Paris or in France. Albo and Labour say one thing, but then they actually act in a completely different way. Yeah, pretty much. Skilled migrants, as in corner deli owners, petrol station operators, and taxi drivers. Lol, we are cooked. Pretty much. It's funny that the actual people that we need are maybe construction workers to build these places, but yet we're getting a whole bunch of students. And yeah, it's not. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. And it's not. Sadly, it's probably just not. It's not just Labor that's the problem. It's also Liberals. They're all broken. It's a stuff system that we're in, and no matter who you really vote for, it's pretty crap. I'd love to hear what you guys think below. If you have watched this far into the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.